What's up, everybody? TonyPizzaGuy here. Today we're going to be talking about something that's very, very awesome. It is WWE 2K17, and we finally have some information revealed. Now, I was actually invited to a conference call with a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Esteemed colleagues of mine got invited to this conference call, which actually happened on Friday, and I actually got an embargo on Monday, 8 a.m., so that's why you're seeing this video now. We are actually going to be talking about WWE 2K17. We're going to talk about the cover superstar, and we're going to talk about when the game's going to come out. But I will let you know that I am posting the whole full conference call here. So if you want to listen to the full thing, it is included in this. You'll obviously notice by the length of this video. But I will tell you that I didn't have my proper recording set up, so I just recorded the audio from my cell phone. I didn't really think it out very well, but I got the recording, so if you guys want to listen to the whole thing, you can. Sorry if the audio sounds a little off, but we will say that right now we do know that on October 11th, that's right, October 11th is when this game is actually going to be released, and that's a weird time because it's usually the end of October, and we know that October is always the time they release the WWE games, but it coming out October 11th changes the thing a little bit. I know that there is a pay-per-view. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but it's SmackDown pay-per-view. I think it's No Mercy, and it comes out right after that pay-per-view. That pay-per-view is on Sunday, and then the game comes out on that Tuesday in October 11th, which is weird because it's the middle of the month and not the end of the month, but that's okay. It'll help it out, hopefully, with sales and stuff like that. So October 11th is when this game is going to be coming out, and then we also know that the cover star is going to be Brock Lesnar. Yes, he is. You saw that Goldberg was driving into Suplex City. I should have put it 2 and 2 together with Goldberg driving in there. It makes sense. Everyone was like, they're going to have a match, but it was really just to reveal the cover of the game. In this call, though, it is Paul Heyman, so he is going to be the advocate for Brock Lesnar. He talks about the game and all that stuff, and then it's open up to Q&A. I didn't actually ask any questions, but in this Q&A, there was a lot of things that went down, like they asked about his UFC stuff, they asked about things about the game, and it's very interesting to have Paul Heyman talk because there's at one point, somebody asked a question, is there going to be a 2K showcase with Brock Lesnar? And Heyman was like, everybody in the room left, but I think there's going to be a 2K showcase. If there's not, there should be, and I will try and find the answer for you. So that was kind of cool. And then there's some other questions about his MMA, UFC thing, like I said, and stuff about the game. So it's very interesting to listen to. I'll put the full call in here. It's about an hour long. But anyway, guys, if you enjoy this, make sure you thumbs up the video. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. As always, TonyPizzaGuy. Whee!
At this time, I'd like to introduce the esteemed advocate for the incumbent mayor of Suplex City, Mr. Paul Heyman.
Yes, and I am quite esteemed this morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Heyman. I am the advocate for Brock Lesnar. Yes, I really do say his name that way in private, even with him, because someone of this stature deserves to have his name stand out. The State of the Union for Suplex City is that Brock Lesnar continues his dominance of global headlines and remains the athlete and or superstar that can walk between the worlds of world-class sports competition and WrestleMania main event level sports entertainment. To prove this theory to you, I submit the fact that on October 11th, 2K Sports will release WWE 2K17, and the cover art will feature Brock Lesnar. This makes Brock Lesnar once again a first in history, the only man to hold the NCAA Division I Heavyweight Championship, and the undisputed UFC World Heavyweight Championship, and the undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. The first man ever to score any semblance of a victory, let alone a clean pinfall in the middle of the ring over The Undertaker at WrestleMania, conquering The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak, and now, once again, the only man not only to be on the cover of both a UFC and WWE video game, but the only go from a WWE video game cover to a UFC video game cover to once again being the featured component on the cover art of a WWE video game. To answer a few of your questions in advance, yes, Brock Lesnar will be fighting Mark Hunt on July 9th in UFC. And yes, Brock Lesnar will be appearing August 21st at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn for WWE SummerSlam. Would you like to phrase your question starting off with, how you doing this morning, Paul? I'm great, for I serve as the advocate for the Beast and the Conqueror, Brock Lesnar, which means my life could not possibly be any better. And I am, without sounding too much like a hype artist, which, by the way, is my job anyway, I am looking forward to October 11th and seeing the reviews come in for this game, because I cannot speak as an expert on being a gamer. My son, who is the target demographic here, who just turned 12, is a significantly obsessed gamer. And when I shared with him some of the internal documents of the components of this game, he looked at me and said, Dad, this game is going to rule, which means to me, we're coming out with possibly the best WWE video game ever. And if Brock Lesnar's on the cover, then it needs to be the best WWE video game ever, because Brock Lesnar represents the top level sports competitor and sports entertainer on the face of the planet today. With that, I open myself up, I'm sure I will regret that, to your kind questions.
Thank you, Paul. At this time,
I think I put everybody to sleep.
At this time, we will be conducting a question and answer session. If you'd like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. A confirmation tone will indicate your line is in a question queue. For participants using speaker equipment, it may be necessary to pick up your handset before pressing the star key. You may press star 2 if you would like to remove your question from the queue. We will get to as many questions as possible in the remaining time. As a courtesy to all participants, please limit your discussion to 1 or 2 total questions. If you have more questions for Paul during the live Q&A, please enter star 1 on your telephone keypad. You will be entered back into the participant queue. Our first question comes from the line of Russell Weekland from Hollywood Life. Please proceed with your question.
When it comes to the upcoming, if I could speak English, upcoming brand split, would you like to have a client on both shows? And what happens if you and Brock are both drafted to different shows?
I don't know if, and that's, I hate categorizing questions as being an interesting question. So if I say, wow, that's an interesting question, and the next person that asks the question, if I don't categorize their question as interesting, does that mean it's a bad question? It is an interesting question, though. I doubt that my name will be thrown into the hat to be separate from Brock Lesnar. I can't really, we're not a tag team. Brock Lesnar is an entity all unto himself, and I'm attached to that entity. So I'm not a competitor. I'm certainly not a wrestler. I can't survive 30 seconds in a ring in any semblance of a way. It's just not what I do. I'm an advocate, and I am exclusively Brock Lesnar's advocate. So wherever Brock Lesnar goes, I would suggest that Paul Heyman goes with him.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Brian Campbell from ESPN.com. Please proceed with your question.
Paul, as a friend of Brock, what is your opinion at this stage of him entering back into the octagon?
It's what Brock wants to do. I think what drives Brock Lesnar to be everything that he is in WWE, what drove Brock Lesnar to be the youngest WWE champion of all time, to be the one athlete that can martial arts, I think he regretted it. And I think he regretted the fact that he is, for the first time in his life, in perfect health, and he's never had a chance to compete while he has perfect health. So it's the one decision in his life that he ever was second guessing, and therefore for his own mindset, I think this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to him, because he gets to go and back and do something while he's at an age that he can still do it, that he truly needs in his heart of hearts to do, because competition is in his blood, and he wasn't ready to walk away from that yet.
Definitely. Paul, I think the unique thing here, obviously, is the timing with SummerSlam being just over a month after UFC 200. How might the result of the UFC fight affect, win or lose, affect the potential booking moving forward of Brock and the WWE side?
I think every day, anything that you do, I mean, a tweet can change the course, and not that Brock Lesnar tweets, because he doesn't. Because if you look at Brock Lesnar's Twitter, it's all retweets of what I say on behalf of my client. But in today's day and age, anything can affect forward movement in sports, let alone in WWE. I understand what you're asking me, but I think just in terms of an overall picture, everything affects you today. When you're at Brock levels. Good morning, everybody. I'm such a morning person. When you're at Brock Lesnar's level of being a box office attraction, everything affects what you're going to be doing at the next appearance, because anything can throw you off course. And the same thing goes for John Cena, and the same thing goes for Roman Reigns, and the same thing goes for Seth Rollins, just like the same thing goes for Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor and John Jones and Daniel Cormier. So the result of this fight, how will it affect SummerSlam? Hopefully it will make Brock Lesnar an even bigger star on a global basis and drive a whole bunch of fans back to WWE or over to WWE for August 21st SummerSlam.
Thanks, Paul.
Our next question comes from the line of Brian Mizique from Bleacher Report and Forbes. Please proceed with your question.
How you doing, Paul? This is Brian Mizique from Bleacher Report and Forbes, and I had a question. I actually met you and I asked you this question a couple years back, but now with some things changing, I'd be interested in hearing an updated answer. Now, we're looking at Brock, and we know he's like this entity all to himself, being able to go back and forth between the worlds. Is there anyone else currently in the WWE or in the UFC that you see that has the potential to succeed in both worlds, both competitively and commercially?
The short answer to that is no. The long answer to that is this is one of the things that Brock Lesnar discussed at length with 2K when they wanted Brock Lesnar to be the cover art for WWE 2K17. And when the game comes out on October 11th, you'll see a lot of components inside the game that demonstrate that Brock wanted his name attached to something that's unique and different and extraordinary. I have all the respect in the world, more so than most would ever believe, for John Cena, for example. But John Cena could not main event WrestleMania, main event SummerSlam, and then walk into the octagon in true heavyweight competition against another heavyweight UFC fighter. Nor could Conor McGregor, the biggest box office attraction, with the exception of Brock Lesnar in UFC, go from a UFC fight and then transfer over to do all the hype, all the television, all the publicity going in, all the appearances going in to a WWE pay-per-view event, and then continue to perform at that level, at the not only the top level, but the top level of sports entertainment. It just can't happen. Ronda Rousey can make an appearance at WrestleMania, but can she work a full schedule to promote WrestleMania and then octagon and fight, whether it be Holly Holm or Misha Tate. And Misha Tate couldn't do that either. But nor could any WWE superstar pull that off. Nor could a UFC top-level competitor. The fact is, you can't expect them to. It would be unrealistic to expect that of John Cena, or of Conor McGregor, or of Ronda Rousey, or of Seth Rollins, or Dean Ambrose, or anybody else. This is something not even Vince McMahon or Dana White could pull off. What makes Brock Lesnar different is that there's nothing I say about him that's simply hype. My job is to hype him, but I hype him within the realm of that my statements are rooted in reality. There's only one being on the face of the planet that could possibly pull this off. And his name is Brock Lesnar.
Would it matter if Conor was a Heyman guy?
It would certainly matter to me because I would love a piece of his income. And again, it would be nice to have Conor McGregor appear at WWE SummerSlam on August 21st, or to be able to feature Conor McGregor in this game when that comes out on October 11th, or to have Conor McGregor at WrestleMania. I'd love for Conor McGregor to be a Paul Heyman guy. But Conor McGregor could not walk between these two worlds, let alone these two universes, like Brock Lesnar. It's just not a possibility. It's what makes Brock Lesnar unique. He's the one person, the one being on this planet that can pull this off.
All right. Thank you very much, Paul.
Our next question comes from the line of Ash Rose with TalkSport. Please proceed with your question.
Hi, Paul. I wanted to ask you about the draft. You were famously part of the writing team on the SmackDown 6. Is there people in the WWE at the moment you could see a couple that SmackDown could be built around in the future?
I think SmackDown is guaranteed to be built around top-level WWE superstars simply by the fact that this draft is happening. This is not just happenstance. This draft is happening because Vince McMahon has made the decision that he is going to have two equal, separate, competitive brands. So I think all bets are off on July 19th as to who ends up on SmackDown and who ends up on Raw. I think one of the biggest components of this draft is going to be the NXT factor, in that you are going to have a whole bunch of new opportunities for people to move up into the main event mix. Because just by the very nature of the fact that Raw is going to have an exclusive roster and SmackDown's going to have an exclusive roster, this opens up the possibilities for new people to rise to the top. And as we saw with the debut of The Shield a couple of years ago, you can get a lot of people into that mix very, very fast if they seize the moment of the opportunity that's given to them. July 19th, in my opinion, when this draft takes place, is going to be opportunity knocking for a lot of great talent to be able to step into a major spotlight and become the face of WWE SmackDown, the face of WWE Monday Night Raw. It's I can't actually sit here and tell you that I was a fan of the whole new era concept, but in my opinion, the new era does begin on July 19th because from all indications that I've received, the desire is to have true competition between the two brands.
Good stuff. That's how there is. And what about the general manager role? I know it's a role you're no stranger to. We've seen Teddy Long and John Laurinaitis come out and make their case. Is there something in it for Paul Heyman to run in SmackDown?
Oh, I certainly hope not. I am the most fortunate person in this industry today. My job is about an athlete for whom superlatives are really easy to me. I am a fan, both personally and professionally, of Brock Lesnar. I'm very flattered by the publicity that I get as this or Heyman's promos or that. Heyman's promos are built on a respect and admiration that I have for Brock Lesnar. Everything I say about this man, I truly believe manager is a role that I had a blast with, but I would prefer to stay in the role that I have had for the past 4 years, which is to serve as the advocate for Brock Lesnar.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, Paul.
Our next question comes from the line of Bill Hanstock from UProx. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, Paul, how's it going? My question is a quick one. I was just wondering whether you had any information about whether you were going to be accompanying Brock to the Octagon at UFC 200.
What purpose would I be serving if I were to accompany Brock Lesnar to the Octagon on July 9th? Will I tell him to throw more jabs? Will I tell him go for the takedown now? Switch to the jiu-jitsu concept. I find it funny that there's all this speculation as to whether I'll accompany Brock to the Octagon for his fight against Mark Hunt. I wish I could serve a purpose or find a purpose to go out to the Octagon with Brock. It will be very funny for me to actually watch him walk down the aisle without me, but until I find a genuine purpose for me to accompany Brock to the Octagon on July 9th, I really don't know in what capacity I could serve to help him win that fight over Mark Hunt.
Thanks very much.
Our next question comes from the line of Ben Wilson from Future. Please proceed with your question.
Hi, Paul. Ben Wilson from Games Radar. Thank you for your time. 2K has announced that Goldberg is returning in WWE 2K17. Are you looking forward to seeing Brock facing off against one of his greatest past rivals in the video game? And should we expect to see him exacting revenge for WrestleMania 20?
I don't think Brock Lesnar needs to exact revenge for WrestleMania 20 because if you now fast forward to the year 2016, which is the release date for WWE 2K17, it's not Goldberg that's on the cover of WWE 2K17, it's Brock Lesnar. So the reigning, defending, undisputed night mayor of Suplex City is Brock Lesnar, and in this game, it's Bill Goldberg that has to come up to challenge Brock Lesnar for his top spot, for his dominance over Suplex City. It's not Brock Lesnar having to challenge Bill Goldberg. So am I looking forward to seeing Brock Lesnar versus Bill Goldberg, or Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, or Brock Lesnar versus Warrior, or Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg in this game? I like watching Brock Lesnar conquer people all day long. I don't think Bill Goldberg in this game is going to be too happy with the end result. I know there's all this hype about Goldberg being the key to the big pre-sale this year, that the only way to play Goldberg is to get the pre-sale. But even in the pre-sale, Bill Goldberg will be conquered by Brock Lesnar.
Lovely. Thanks for your time.
Our next question comes from the line of Scott Fishman from Channel Guide. Please proceed with your question.
Well, you've known Vince McMahon for a long time. Do you feel like his perspective on the business has changed a little bit? Because you're seeing Brock Lesnar now, working for UFC as well, with being with WWE. You're seeing AJ Styles come in. You're seeing all this new talent, and you're seeing the Cruiserweight Classic where they're bringing outside, companies and almost featuring them, to help them. I know Triple H has a lot of say into that, but what do you think about Vince McMahon and what his perspective is on the business today?
I think Vince McMahon's perspective changes several times per day, and it has to if you want to survive in today's constantly changing environment. I think the entire concept of the WWE Network is indication that Vince McMahon's perspective is constantly changing because the WWE Network has created a completely different business model for WWE itself. So does Brock walking between the two worlds serve as being demonstrative of Vince McMahon's acceptance to change? I think Vince McMahon has always been willing to change. His whole goal when he bought out his father was to completely change the perception and the distribution and the marketing and the promotion of this industry. I can't say that what Brock Lesnar is doing is indicative of anything regarding Vince McMahon, because the only two people that truly know Vince's level of acceptance of Brock walking between these two worlds are Brock and Vince, because those are the two that had the conversation about this. So, to answer it sharply, I don't think that Brock walking between the two worlds is indicative of Vince's acceptance of change. I do think that Vince accepts change on a daily basis, and that his perception and the way that he views the industry always changes, because the moment it doesn't change, then he's going to be left behind by someone else that comes along with a newer, different concept.
Okay, and you've been a big fan as well about Roman Reigns. Given his recent setback, what's some advice that you would give him now moving forward with his career?
I don't know any better advice that I can give someone than to say, I make no excuses and I own this. And that's called accountability. It's the same thing I teach my children. Did you leave the cap with the toothpaste? No, it wasn't me, it was her. No, it wasn't me, it was him. Okay, did you leave the cap with the toothpaste? Yes, I did it. It was my mistake. I apologize. I'm going to put the cap back on the toothpaste, and I'll make many mistakes in my life, but I will never make that one again. It's the same thing. The man took accountability for his actions. He said, I have no excuses and I own this. That's the best advice I could give anybody in my life, because it's the advice I give my own children.
All right, thank you so much.
Our next question comes from the line of David Soriano from 2K Games. Please proceed with your question.
Hi, Mr. Paul. I'm David from Hialeah, Spain. Don't you think you should get any chance for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship for Brock to look better on the cover?
As a matter of fact, I concur with your assessment, sir. Brock Lesnar should be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion for the cover of the Suplex City edition of WWE 2K17. And I find it funny that you would bring it up, because it is still Brock Lesnar's position. He never lost the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. That Seth Rollins cashed in Money in the Bank and made it a three-way match, and that the challenger beat the other challenger for the championship. So in Brock's heart of hearts, he is the undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Once he gets by Mark Hunt on July 9th at UFC, I think Brock Lesnar's vision will be sharply set on the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. But I agree with your assessment. Brock Lesnar should have the title featured on this cover, and it's a shame that he doesn't.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul.
I think I scared him that I told him he was right. He was expecting me to argue with him or something.
Our next question comes from the line of Anwar Anrani from Sport America. Please proceed with your question.
Hi, Paul. Do you think Brock can hold both the WWE and UFC title when he decides to keep on fighting in the UFC?
I don't make any predictions regarding Brock's viewpoints in terms of competing in the UFC after July 9th. I know Brock really wanted to have a training camp and have fun in training. I know Brock really wanted to step into the octagon and have fun competing, because to him that is just the greatest feeling in the world, because he's a born competitor. So once July 9th is over, I make no predictions whether this will be a one and done, and then it's on to August 21st at SummerSlam and continue on his career in WWE, or whether he will continue to fight in UFC while performing in WWE. He's not giving up WWE to do this. Could he hold the UFC World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE World Heavyweight Championship if Brock Lesnar decides to continue fighting in UFC? Absolutely he can, and he is the only being on the face of the planet that could possibly even consider making that accomplishment happen.
And of this current WWE roster, who would you like to see compete against Brock?
Well, there's a whole slew of new talent that's out there that I would love to see step into the ring with Brock Lesnar. Obviously, whomever holds the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, at the moment it's Dean Ambrose. I'd love to see Dean Ambrose against Brock Lesnar because I'd like Brock Lesnar to be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Once you get past that, just look at the NXT roster and you'll see guys like Samoa Joe and Balor and all this talent that is coming up and about to break into the main roster. I'd love to see these guys against Brock Lesnar. And I'd love to see modern day Brock Lesnar against modern day Randy Orton. And I still don't think that the public is tired of seeing Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. The hype in me would like to tell you you can make all these things happen on October 11th in WWE 2K17. You could do Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. You could do Brock Lesnar versus The Warrior. You could do Brock Lesnar versus any NXT roster. You could do Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton or any other member of the WWE roster, whether it's Raw or SmackDown. But the reality tells you, or tells me to tell you, I'd like to see Brock Lesnar in the hunt for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and whomever holds that title coming out of Battleground on July 24th, I would suggest that's who is in Brock Lesnar's scope when he returns to WWE.
I think so.
Our next question comes from the line of Ted Gruber from Fansided.com. Please shoot your question. Mr. Heyman, how are you, sir?
See, I answered that already, and you weren't paying attention to the beginning. You're not a morning person, you know.
I'm all discombobulated, but you're speaking about Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. If Brock gets a medical suspension, do you think the WWE will honor that for SummerSlam if it goes past the 30-day mark?
I have absolutely no knowledge of WWE's position on such a circumstance. Plus, I would be speculating, and it's a hypothetical. So on this, I had to take a respectful pass because it's not something I have discussed. I don't know if Brock has discussed it with WWE. I doubt that he has. And that's a question that is better answered by Vince McMahon himself.
And another question for you about such good speculation is Brock coming out to his entrance theme from the WWE. Do you know what entrance theme he's going to be using when fighting Mark Hunt?
Funny that report came out, and when I discussed that report with Brock, Brock felt that it was, in his opinion, something that everybody is trying to find out. Any piece of information regarding his appearance on July 9th in the Octagon. Brock finds it funny that there's such a big deal being made of his walkout gear. That he's going to be wearing the walkout gear featuring Canada instead of the United States. He finds it very funny. The only thing that Brock Lesnar is concerned about when it comes to his fight with Mark Hunt is stepping in the Octagon and fighting Mark Hunt. So when I discussed it with Brock, his public stance on it was tune in July 9th and find out. And I don't want to go against what Brock Lesnar would like disseminated to the public. I did read the report, and Brock finds it all very funny because he thinks it makes people lose focus on what the real question is, which is who's getting knocked out or tapped out. Is it Brock Lesnar or Mark Hunt? And we're going to find out on July 9th.
Thank you, Paul.
Poor Dad asked two questions, and I got to take a pass on both of them.
Our next question comes from the line of Ryan Seidel from the Store Bible. Please proceed with your question.
Paul, you touched on it briefly. Who's from NXT on the NXT roster because of the big things on the main roster?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, sir.
No, just NXT, talked about it briefly. Who's there to fix the big things on the main roster?
Well, I think Balor is ready to be a main event superstar. I think Samoa Joe has always been a main event superstar. That NXT roster is filled with A-listers who are ready to move up and make a significant impact on both Raw and SmackDown. Even though I'm naming two right off the top, and it's an easy two because they've been featured in the main events, but you seriously take a look at the NXT roster and you realize how well positioned WWE is for this draft on July 19th because there's so much talent in NXT. And to even go further in that, I think NXT demonstrates its own strength by the fact that NXT is practically guaranteed to lose if not only its top tier, but perhaps even its top 1A tier as well in this draft for 6 months after the draft. And yet, nobody in NXT is sweating this because the depth of the roster in NXT is so deep with A-level talent right now that it's just going to give a lot of people opportunity to move up to the top of the NXT roster as well. So it's not just to me who makes an impact on Raw or SmackDown, but the fact that the face of NXT will change, and even for the better, because now you're going to have new people in main event mix in NXT as well.
Great stuff. Just finally, for you, you really helped out with SmackDown at the top rank when you were in a while back. How important is it to make SmackDown feel special again in those lines?
Oh, I think it's paramount. SmackDown has to come across as a brand that is truly competing with WWE Monday Night Raw. If the brand is not competitive with WWE in terms of talent, in terms of production, in terms of look, in terms of presentation, just in terms of the manner in which the announcers get to describe the product and the prestige of appearing on the show, then it's doomed. But I don't see it going down that way. Vince McMahon is not known for doing things half-ass. And I am sure that the directive within WWE is that as of July 19th, when this brand split or brand extension or the expansion of the two brands happen, that there will be an equal and distinctive roster on each side, and that the rosters are going to compete. And Vince thrives, much like Brock Lesnar thrives on competition. Vince thrives on competition, and just like he did in 2002, when there's no one out there competing with Vince McMahon, he'll create his own competition.
Great stuff. Thank you for your time.
Our next question comes from the line of Steve Regovic from Examiner.com. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, Paul, thanks so much for taking the time today. So kind of looking forward into Brock Lesnar, perhaps when he's retired from the UFC and WWE, what sort of role do you see him having both in those industries? Do you see him stepping in as more of a manager, kind of like you've been?
Do I see Brock Lesnar stepping in as a manager?
Yeah, where do you see him following with?
No, I see Brock Lesnar performing at the highest level of any athlete in the history of UFC and the highest level of any athlete in the history of WWE, and I see him walking away while still on top. This is what I always say on television. You not going to get that many more opportunities to see Brock Lesnar do his thing. So when Brock Lesnar performs, whether it's in an octagon or WWE ring, is a rare and distinct and unique opportunity to see the greatest athlete of this generation, a once-ever athlete in his prime, do his thing at a level no one else can compete with.
Quick follow-up to that. What do you see the greatest athlete of this generation doing when he's 60 years old?
Buying more farmland in Saskatchewan.
Fair enough. Thank you.
The man is a farmer. He loves to farm. It's what's in his heart. It's what he'll be passing down to his children. Brock Lesnar is a farmer, and performing and fighting enables him to buy more farmland.
Our next question comes from the line of Alzaro Garcia from Tornado Wrestling. Please proceed with your question.
Hello, Mr. Heyman. Nice to meet you. I have two questions for you. First, would you like to be included in the game Paul Heyman Guy mode, where, for example, every superstar become the best in the business?
I think there needs to be a Paul Heyman Guy mode in WWE 2K17, and without revealing too much about the inner workings of the game, I recently did a number of voiceovers for the game, and I spent around 2 hours talking to the player at home about being a Paul Heyman guy. So, without revealing too much or confirming or denying about your question, I think Paul Heyman guy was taken into consideration in the making of WWE 2K17.
Awesome. And the last question, now with the women's division stronger than ever, will it be a Paul Heyman girl, and who could be in this hypothetical game?
I think the only way to become a Paul Heyman girl is to be part of WWE 2K17 that comes out on October 11th. I am the advocate for Brock Lesnar. I am exclusively the advocate for Brock Lesnar, and I don't think Brock Lesnar will be happy with the decision for me to advocate for anybody else but Brock Lesnar, except if it comes to gameplay in WWE 2K17.
Okay, thank you, and nice to share the time with you.
Our next question comes from the line of Will Power, a private investor. Please proceed with your question.
Hi, I was about to ask the big question, but will there be a Brock Lesnar 2K showcase in WWE 2K17?
Well, I'm sorry. I know you're a private investor, and I don't know if you're a private investor in WWE or in 2K, but you broke up when you were talking. You're probably on your private aircraft right now, or your yacht, which is why you have that shoddy reception.
No, I'm not even a private investor. I'm a YouTuber, but anyway, I was asking, will Lesnar have his own 2K showcase mode in WWE 2K17?
I tell you what, you stumped me on this one. I really don't have the answer to that. Oh, look, who's the publicist there? Look at this. Nobody's in the room with me now. They all went out for coffee. I wish I had an answer for you, so I'll be as you say. There damn well better be a Brock Lesnar showcase in WWE 2K17, and then I'll say which comes out on October 11th. But I don't really know the answer to that, which is something I wish, by the way, that people running for president this year would be able to say to the public. It's a great question, and I don't know the answer, but I'll find it out. So before this embargo is lifted, someone should get back to this gentleman and get him his answer whether Brock Lesnar will be featured in a showcase in WWE 2K17. And if you don't, you'll make me look like a schmuck, and Brock Lesnar will be very angry at you for doing so. So they owe you an answer.
Alright, sounds good. I can wait. And one last question, if possible, how likely is it that we'll get to see Rock versus Brock Part 2?
Oh, that's all up to Dwayne Johnson, because Brock Lesnar got no one going into this fight on July 9th in UFC 200, which is obvious because he's facing such a badass like Mark Hunt. And Brock Lesnar doesn't touch anybody in the WWE Rumble or WrestleMania or specials on the WWE Network. And if Dwayne Johnson wants a piece of Brock Lesnar, Dwayne Johnson's welcome to step up and step into the ring with him.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. Thank you so much for answering that question. Take care, sir.
Our next question comes from the line of Christian Dory from Computer Media. Please proceed with your question.
Hi, Paul. Right now, Brock Lesnar is the unbeatable beast in the WWE. But what happens if he loses against Mark Hunt at UFC 200? Will the gimmick
my father was an attorney for many, many years, which is where I grew up with the name Advocate. And my father was an attorney in the Bronx. And very famously, and how my father was held in contempt of court when this happened, I don't know. But once a judge said to my father, if, and my father kind of respectfully said to the judge, Your Honor, I don't deal in ifs, I deal in absolutes. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. She's not. She doesn't, so she's still my aunt, she's not my uncle. I don't deal in ifs, I deal in absolutes. Here's an absolute. Brock Lesnar stepping into the octagon with Mark Hunt on July 9th. Here is an absolute. Brock Lesnar is appearing at WWE SummerSlam August 21st. Here's an absolute. Brock Lesnar will be featured on the cover of WWE 2K17 on October 11th. Those are absolutes. If. I don't know about ifs. I can't deal in hypothetical situations. I only deal in absolutes. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. She doesn't, so she's not. Brock Lesnar will fight Mark Hunt on July 9th. Whatever happens in that octagon will obviously affect things that go forward. Find out July 9th.
Okay, normally I would have a second question, but it involves an if. Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead. You probably can say it.
Okay. If you could choose, if you could choose one former ECW wrestler to be on the roster of WWE 2K17, who would that be, and why would you choose him?
I would choose Joey Styles because I would like to see Brock Lesnar F5 Joey Styles. Because I'd love to hear what it sounds like when you're in midair and you're coming crashing down the mat and you hear, oh my God, crash! Brock Lesnar were allowed to F5 Joey Styles. I wish Joey Styles were in the WWE 2K17 video.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Our next question comes from the line of Alejandro Jimenez from Solo Wrestling. Please proceed with your question.
Hello, Paul. I was going to talk about the presentation from a creative standpoint. Back in 2002, when the WWE first had Raw and SmackDown both as separate brands, you were one of the main writers of SmackDown when SmackDown beat Raw in ratings. I would like to know if Paul Heyman will be a head writer or be in a creative team for the new SmackDown coming this July.
I don't think I am in the consideration to be even close to the writing staff in today's WWE corporate environment, nor have I requested to be even close to being on the writing staff in today's WWE environment. I have a primo gig. I serve as the advocate for Brock Lesnar, and I happen to be able to do that on television as well. And I think WWE is best served with me in that role. The job of a writer in WWE is a very demanding job. I don't think it's for a father of two children who are just getting into their teenage years. It is a young man's job, 24/7, 365 commitment for as long as you can continue to match the work ethic of the chairman, and that's a daunting task to begin with.
Thank you, Paul.
Our next question comes from the line of Adam Pacitti from What Culture. Please proceed with your question.
Hi there, Paul. It feels like if Brock is defeated at UFC 200, Vince McMahon is the guy with the most to lose. Was it difficult to convince Vince that Brock competing at UFC 200 is a good idea?
I wasn't in the room when Brock discussed
Gotcha. What happens if Brock loses? Do you think that really affects his position on the roster?
Let me ask you a different question. What happens if Brock wins?
If Brock wins, he continues to be a legitimate star. If he loses, he perhaps loses some of that legitimacy.
I don't know. I don't particularly agree with your assessment, and I'll tell you why. Brock Lesnar had an opportunity to veto any fighter that he did not wish to face at UFC 200. Brock did not exercise that veto. Brock Lesnar is the one that called Dana White. He revealed that in an interview with me that we aired on the Heyman Hustle YouTube channel. And Brock Lesnar called Dana White and said, put me in against anybody. I'll fight anybody you got at UFC 200. And Dana White started naming names to Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar said, doesn't matter the name. I'll fight anybody you got. So when they came up with Mark Hunt, who is a one-punch knockout artist with superior takedown defense, Brock didn't flinch. That doesn't add to his badass persona that he's been out of the octagon for 5.5 years and he's walking in and facing a one-punch knockout artist on a winning streak with superior takedown defense. What else could sell to the public that Brock Lesnar is the baddest dude on the face of the planet today? And if people are gonna fret over the result of a fight in terms of legitimacy, I think they're looking in the wrong direction.
Understood. Very admirable. Thank you, Paul.
Our next question comes from the line of Brian Vore from 2K. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, Paul. By the time the embargo was on this, the TV commercial that you and Brock shot for the game will be out. Why, if you had any behind-the-scenes stories from the shoot and any impressions of the things that you guys did there?
Well, I stand by every single solitary thing I've ever said in my life, even if it was really ridiculously stupid. Which I hope you stand by stupid things that you say, like just this mere question right now. Brock Lesnar was interviewed on the set of the commercial for WWE 2K17, and I have never seen Brock Lesnar say something that he walks away going, yeah, I wish I would have said that. You put a microphone in front of Brock Lesnar, you're going to get a controversial answer, even if you ask him how he was feeling today. People on that set put a microphone in front of Brock Lesnar's mouth, and I think he demonstrated to a lot of people why it's better for all of us that he has an advocate, because when Brock Lesnar says things, it is completely unfiltered, it's blunt, it's straight, it's in your face, and it's never going to be politically correct.
Agreed. Do you have any behind-the-scenes stories of the shoot?
Do you have any behind-the-scenes stories of the shoot?
Well, I do, but people, I think, would rather hear anything you have to say.
Well, I'd love to hear what you... Well, yeah, but I know mine. I'd love to hear yours. What behind-the-scenes stories do you have from the shoot?
Well, there was a big scary beast walking around the whole time that I think had quite an impression on everyone.
Did you find that Brock Lesnar on that set was any different than the Brock Lesnar you see on television?
Not a bit.
That's my entire point. Finally, someone speaks, because what you see with Brock Lesnar is what you get. He is a scary beast, and he's a beast in person the same way he is on television. He's not playing a persona. He's not playing a character when he's out there on television. That's Brock Lesnar. He's an intimidating, scary being, and he walks around as he is the conqueror, as if Suplex City is a real place and he is its real conqueror.
Great, thanks.
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, it is *1 to ask a question.
That means someone screwed up, doesn't it? Someone didn't hit *1.
Our next question comes from the line of Olaf Gleich, a freelancer. Please proceed with your question.
Good morning, Paul. Obviously, I was the one to screw up. We talked at WrestleMania.
You took accountability for it. So I'll give you a lot of props for that. Because you took accountability for it, and now you're moving on, never to make the same mistake again. So I applaud you first.
We already met at WrestleMania Media Roll, and at that day, Brock Lesnar was facing Dean Ambrose, and now Dean Ambrose is champion. So, what was your initial reaction on the current event?
My reaction when Dean Ambrose won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship was the same reaction I had when Seth Rollins won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, which is, hey, my beast, his conqueror, Brock Lesnar, can beat this man for the championship.
All right. Then another question maybe to the Cruiserweight Classic that's currently being taped. You brought in the Cruiserweights into ECW to bring more variety into the shows. How do you see the difference between ECW's Cruiserweights like Super Crazy or Geraldine to nowadays Cruiserweights?
Well, I think the Cruiserweight division has obviously expanded and it has evolved in the past 15, 20 years. 20 years really since we featured them in ECW. And I think it's like everything else in this industry or other sports or entertainment industries. It has to evolve or it withers and dies. So the Cruiserweight division has upgraded and become a focal point. And I'm very happy to see that in today's environment, to the point where WWE, which was always, described back in the day of being a big fan territory, is now doing an entire series on the Cruiserweight division because they acknowledge the fact and they embrace the fact that there's a huge audience for that style of sports entertainment.
All right. Are there any current Cruiserweights within this tournament that you would say this could be a Paul Heyman guy?
Well, there are a lot of people that could become a Paul Heyman guy, but Brock Lesnar wants exclusivity. So, at this point in time, I am exclusively the advocate for Brock Lesnar.
All right, thank you. Our next question comes from the line of Brian Campbell from ESPN.com. Please proceed with your question.
Hey, Paul, quick question on CM Punk announcing that he'll finally make his UFC debut. It's been such a long road since he originally announced he would join the UFC over almost 2 years. Do you think this is a one and done, get it out of the system, or do you think this could be a lengthy run for him?
No, any conversation that I had with CM Punk dating back, even when he was still in WWE, when he was dreaming of getting involved in mixed martial arts, is that he was viewing a switch over of careers from becoming a sports entertainer to becoming a full-time, career-oriented mixed martial artist.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, but we are out of time for questions. Paul, do you have any closing remarks?
Oh, yeah, my closing remark is that's terrible of you. Cutting these nice people up and waiting in line to talk to me? Oh, my goodness. Man, moderators. I never liked moderators to begin with, and I'm sure Brock Lesnar doesn't like moderators either. So I guess I'll wrap it up with this, though it's not my decision to wrap it up. Brock Lesnar fights Mark Hunt Saturday night, July 9th for UFC 200. That's a fact. Brock Lesnar will be appearing and wrestling at WWE SummerSlam on Sunday, August 21st. That's a fact. And Brock Lesnar will be on the cover, and rightfully so. And I applaud 2K Sports for putting Brock Lesnar on the cover. It's the smartest thing they could do for their merchandising. It's the smartest thing they can do for their license. It's the smartest thing they can do for their shareholders. The game comes out universally on October 11th. WWE 2K17, and on the cover will be Brock Lesnar.
Thank you all for joining today's State of the Union address, presented by WWE 2K17.